I have hesitated talking about the September numbers that came out 2 weeks ago because a little like who cares? Because I don't know if it's really the numbers. I think it's about like what's going on in the bigger picture in the market in the world. That's much more important to talk about. But I will, let's say, shape the narrative of the September numbers and say that I do believe that we are muddling somewhere in the bottom of all of this. I think they always say, like, and I say it too, like, you don't necessarily know you've hit bottom until it's in the rearview mirror, but I'm seeing certain signs where we're starting a potential recovery, and that's a big statement. I don't think that it's a straight line recovery. I think it's going to be a bumpy couple of years. I had the privilege of being at Great Brook's annual event and hearing Benjamin Tull speak. He is the market whisperer, and he did predict a 2-year slow recovery. So I think that's a really good way to be looking at the market, that there's nothing crazy that's really going to be going on over the next couple of years. And these every month Trev numbers and the headlines that people are trying to create, I think they're clickbait. I think that, again, we've got to just go back to the basics of, is this a good time for me to buy or sell for myself and my own universe? Why do I think that there's a bit of a progression towards getting out of the bottom is that there are some numbers that are showing some good signs of recovery. So first of all, sales were up 8.5% year over year. So again, this is a snapshot of just September 2025 compared to September 2024. All of these things have so many factors that can influence it. And let's be very honest, there were only 5,500 sales, or yes, approximately. I didn't write the exact number down. So when you think about what 8.5% is, that's not like, what is that, 500 sales across the GTA? This is not a headline. 8.5% of what, right? Is always my question when people say, oh, I hear it's of what? Now, active listings were still up 18.9%. Double digit, solid, almost 20%, great. But compared to March of this year, when they were 88.8% of that disaster that was going on in the spring of this year, I'd say it's a pretty good recovery. I think we're going in the right direction, but still pretty high. Average price, again, going back to this like snapshot in time, they're still hovering every month. There's nothing major to really talk about. They're hovering around $1 million to 1.1 million as average. But again, that constitutes like everything that is sold, from luxury detached homes to small little condos. So it really depends on what sells that month. 40% of all of sales in this price point for September. So 40% of all sales happened in that $1 to $1.1 million range in detached homes. And in fact, of the 29,000 active listings in the GTA, only 2,900 approximately are detached homes in the 416. So again, going back to this like affordability, lack of homes that people can raise their families in around parks and transit. I mean, that's what I get asked out all the time. I want to find a nice house with a lovely layout and, natural light that's, close to schools and parks and transit. There's still not a ton of well-priced inventory. I can't tell you how many homes I am seeing in the 416 that are as-is estate sales with like murder basements and like ceilings just falling through. We saw one that looked like there was like water, like just gate. Anyway, so much on the main street. People don't want to live with, buses rambling by their front door. Now, 10% still sold over $2 million. And I'm old enough to remember that over $2 million used to be considered luxury. And this is now a beginning price point in many 416 neighborhoods with good schools and transit and parks and, lots of greenery and a place you want to raise your kids. And it's really where you're looking in a midtown forever house, sadly. Condos represented, the condo story. So condos represented 32% of all the inventory, which is actually less than it was in March of this year, which it represented 36%, but Is it because we're going through the inventory, or are people just not selling them because they don't want to take a loss and they're renting it? I don't know. I didn't dig in. It's possible. The numbers still look good. Now, the average condo price was interesting to me. So the majority of condos sold between 400,000 to 700,000. So 400 to 699,999. 70% of all condos sold in that price point, compared to March of 2021, 70% sold in the 500 to 799. So it's gone down a whole bracket. Interestingly, though, there's very little inventory, good inventory, in that 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom in a good building, like under $1 million, that doesn't look like a bowling alley. Very little. Okay, so all that to be said, what can I tell you about this market? One, there's more inventory than we've seen in years, if not decades. Like, there's a lot to choose from. A lot of it you may not want, but there's a lot. There was, a few years ago, we had nothing to choose from. Things are not selling in the 10 to 12 days that they were. You have time to go back to a house, take your parents, take your friends, bring a contractor, negotiate, bring conditions to an offer. Lots of room. And interest rates are now in a lower stage than we've seen in quite a while. I think I saw a variable rate the other day under 4%. We haven't seen that in a long time. And according to Benjamin Tal, the Bank of Canada and the Feds in the US have a green light to continue cutting those interest rates, which, by the way, are irrelevant to this market. But it's very true that we now have some affordable lending rates ahead of us now, and probably within this next 6 months. So why aren't buyers buying? Why aren't they going out? What I am seeing is that there's quality over quantity. So most of our properties that we've sold in the last month had, on average, 3 to 5 showings, but they sold because the people that are out are serious buyers. There's not a lot of people kicking the can down the street right now. But I really wonder what it's going to take to get the market moving. And again, not fast speed locomotive, not high speed rail. I'm talking just moving on a more regular basis. And it's really going to take a trade deal, I think. That's my personal opinion. I think unemployment numbers need to stabilize. They definitely have to stop rising for several reasons, and there needs to be a tariff deal. Tariffs in the headlines is not good for anybody's consumer confidence, because right now that is the biggest issue. Consumer confidence is in the garbage, unfortunately, in Canada. I can't speak for the US. So the question is, what does that mean for spring 2026? I am so eager to know what you guys all think. Comment below. Have a great fall. I can't believe it's not 25 degrees anymore.